The microphone hums, not loudly, just enough to remind everyone in the room that silence costs something here. Elara Wynne stands 3 feet from the stage edge, fingers locked around the neck of an acoustic guitar she hasn't played in front of anyone. Ever. Her mother's hand rests on her shoulder, gripped tight enough to leave marks through the cotton uniform sleeve. "Don't move," her mother whispers. "We're only here to work." The performance hall smells like old money, polished wood, leather seats worn smooth by decades of important people sitting in judgment. Crystal chandeliers catch the light and throw it back in patterns that cost more than Elara's entire childhood. She doesn't belong here. Everyone knows it. The guests arrive in waves, black ties, gowns that shimmer, laughter that sounds like it's been practiced. They move past Elara and her mother the way you move past furniture. Present, necessary, invisible. Elara watches them from the corner near the side entrance, where staff wait until they are needed. Her mother smooths wrinkles from tablecloths, adjusts flower arrangements, smiles when spoken to, disappears when not. This is survival, 23 years of it. Elara learned music the same way, by stealing it, by listening through walls while her mother vacuumed rehearsal rooms in hotels where visiting musicians stayed, by memorizing melodies she had no right to know. No sheet music, no lessons, no piano she could touch without permission, just memory, and something heavier than memory. But if you've ever wondered whether discipline can live in silence, whether talent grows in the margins where no one's watching, the answer walks on stage in a custom suit, smiling like he owns the room. Because he does. Rowan Halbrecht, son of a billionaire whose name appears on defense contracts and aerospace buildings. Heir to the kind of wealth that doesn't apologize. He takes the microphone without asking. The room shifts. Something in the air changes. Elara's mother pulls her back toward the kitchen entrance. But Rowan's eyes are already moving, scanning, searching. And when they land on Elara, the program is about to change. Have you ever been in a room where you knew you didn't belong? Where one wrong move could destroy everything? Rowan Halbrecht doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. The room bends toward him the way plants bend toward light. Automatic, unconscious. Survival instinct dressed up as respect. He stands center stage, one hand in his pocket, the other holding the microphone like a cigarette. Casual, bored, dangerous in the way only truly powerful people can be. "Thank you all for coming tonight," he says, and the applause starts before he finishes the sentence. This is his world. These are his people. Elara watches from the shadows near the sound booth, where her mother has moved them twice already, away from sight, away from trouble. But Rowan's attention keeps drifting, not to the donors in the front row, not to the mayor sitting beside his father, not to the actress everyone whispers about, to the edges, where people like Elara exist only when needed. Someone near the stage whispers something. Rowan laughs. The kind of laugh that makes other people laugh even when they don't know the joke. He gestures toward the program. "We've got an incredible lineup tonight. Truly world-class talent. The kind of performances you'll tell your grandchildren about." More applause. Elara's mother tugs her sleeve. "We should go check the service table." But Elara doesn't move, because Rowan has stopped speaking. His eyes narrow slightly, scanning the back of the room now, not looking for something. Looking at something, at someone. A woman in a red gown approaches the stage, whispering urgently to one of the event coordinators. The coordinator goes pale, whispers to another. The chain reaction spreads like fire through dry grass. Rowan's smile tightens. Someone important's just canceled. The soprano, the headline performance, gone. Rowan sets the microphone down carefully, then picks it back up and steps toward the edge of the stage. What would you do if the most powerful person in the room suddenly noticed you existed? "Well," Rowan's voice cuts through the murmurs like a blade through silk. "Looks like we're down one performer." The audience shifts, uncomfortable, annoyed. These people paid for perfection, donated for control. This isn't part of the plan. Rowan smiles, not warmly. "But we're adaptable people, aren't we?" He scans the crowd, playing the moment like a poker hand. "Surely someone here is feeling brave tonight." Laughter ripples through the room, nervous, relieved. Entertainment salvaged. Elara's mother pulls harder now. Move! Now! But Elara's legs won't respond, because Rowan isn't looking at the audience anymore. He's looking directly at her. Pointing. You! The word lands like a fist. Every head in the room turns. Phones come up. Camera flashes pop. Suddenly, Elara isn't invisible anymore. She's exposed, spotlighted, trapped. Her mother steps forward. Sir, we're just staff, I know. Rowan waves her off. But your daughter's been hovering near the stage all night, watching, listening. He tilts his head, almost like she wants to perform. Elara shakes her head, can't speak, can't breathe. Rowan's smile widens. Tell you what, I'm feeling generous tonight. He holds up a finger. Sing Mozart, the hardest piece you know. Pause, the room holds its breath. And if you're good, his eyes gleam. I'll marry you. The audience erupts. Laughter, applause, phones recording everything. This is content now, a story they'll tell at dinner parties for months. Look what the billionaire's son did. Look at the maid's daughter squirming. Elara's mother grabs her arm. Please, don't! But an assistant is already moving toward them, sheet music in hand. Printed. Professional. This wasn't improvised. This was planned. Rowan knew the soprano would cancel. He knew someone would need to fill the gap, and he chose humiliation over silence. The assistant hands Elara the music. Mozart's most unforgiving aria, the one that destroys untrained voices. Would you walk away? Or would something inside you refuse to stay silent one more second? The stage stretches out like an execution platform. Old wood, polished to a mirror shine. Every scuff mark tells a story. Presidents spoke here once. Generals received honors. Nobel recipients delivered speeches that changed policy. No one like Elara has ever stood here. Her mother's voice cracks behind her. You don't have to do this. But Elara's already moving. Not because she's brave, because something older than fear is awake now. The audience watches with the kind of attention you give car crashes. Morbid, eager, already forming opinions. The conductor stands near the orchestra pit, shaking his head so slightly only Elara sees it. An apology, a warning. This is cruelty disguised as opportunity, and everyone knows it. Rowan sits in the front row now, legs crossed, phone out. Recording. He wants this documented. Proof that he controls even humiliation. Elara reaches the microphone. It's vintage. The kind used in wartime radio broadcasts. When words carried weight. When truth had consequences. Her hands shake as she unfolds the sheet music. The notes blur. She's memorized harder pieces than this in hotel stairwells while her mother worked doubles. She's sung entire operas to herself in cold laundry rooms where no one could hear. But this is different. This is public. This is recorded. This is permanent. The conductor raises his baton, reluctant, obligated. The orchestra waits. Rowan leans back in his seat, smile fixed. Elara's mother stands frozen near the exit, hands pressed to her mouth. And in the half second before the first note, Elara remembers something. Not a lesson, not a teacher. A moment, years ago, listening through a wall while a visiting soprano practiced the same piece. Hearing her break down crying because the cadenza was impossible. Hearing her voice coach say, only someone who's suffered knows how to sing this honestly. Elara inhales. The room leans forward. And the first note begins. Quietly. Have you ever had to prove yourself to people who wanted you to fail? The first note isn't loud, it's accurate. Precision cuts through the room like a scalpel. Clean, controlled, impossible to ignore. The laughter dies in someone's throat. Then another. Then silence spreads like water finding its level. Elara doesn't perform. She testifies. Her voice moves through Mozart's unforgiving phrases with the kind of discipline you don't learn in classrooms. This is survival technique. Breath control earned through years of listening, waiting, memorizing in the margins where no one expects excellence. The second phrase reveals something the audience didn't anticipate. Training. Real training. Not formal, not expensive, but deep. A veteran in the third row straightens his spine. Recognition flickers across his face. He's heard this before. Not the song, the restraint, the kind of control you develop when mistakes have consequences, when there's no safety net. Radio silence before combat sounds like this. Tight, focused, alive. Rowan's smile freezes on his face. His phone lowers slightly. This isn't the script. The conductor's baton moves now with actual intent, no longer apologizing. The orchestra follows Elara's lead instead of fighting her. Because she's not guessing, she knows. Every transition, every breath mark, every place where weaker voices crack. A woman in the front row leans forward, then another. The shift happens in waves. They're not watching anymore, they're witnessing. Elara's mother has both hands over her mouth now, tears streaming. Because she's heard her daughter hum these melodies while folding laundry, whisper them while cleaning bathrooms. But never like this. Never with a microphone carrying every syllable to people who matter. Rowan shifts in his seat. Once. Twice. His jaw tightens. Because something impossible is happening. The maid's daughter isn't just competent. She's trained. Deeply. Obsessively. And the room is starting to realize what he already knows. He made a mistake. Not in asking her to perform, in underestimating what silence hides. The piece reaches its midpoint now, the dangerous section, where Mozart separates pretenders from professionals, where every amateur breaks. Elara doesn't hesitate. She chooses the harder path, the original cadenza, the one no one attempts anymore. And her voice rises, not louder, truer. The conductor's baton freezes midair. Elara has abandoned the simplified arrangement Rowan handed her, the one designed to make her stumble, the one built for failure. She's singing the original now, the version performers spend years preparing for, the cadenza that ended careers, the section conservatory students are warned about in their first week. Mozart wrote it to test limits. Elara sings it like she's been waiting her whole life for permission. Her voice climbs through intervals that shouldn't exist in human range. Not screaming, not straining, just present. Each note placed with the precision of someone who's practiced in secret, who's mapped every breath, every transition, every trap. Rowan goes completely still. His phone screen goes dark in his hand. Because only someone who studied this obsessively would dare attempt what she's doing right now. Only someone who spent years in stairwells and laundry rooms memorizing what they heard through walls. This isn't luck. This is discipline surviving in darkness. The orchestra adjusts. They're following her now. Not the sheet music. Her. Because she knows something they don't. She understands the architecture of this piece from the inside. A donor 3 rows back whispers to her husband. Where did she train? No one answers. Because the truth is impossible. People like Elara don't get training. They get night shifts. They get invisibility. They get told where they belong. But Elara's voice climbs higher still. The cadenza peaks. One note held longer than should be physically possible. Sustained on breath control that takes decades to develop. Or desperation. Or both. Her mother is sobbing now. Silent. Shaking. Because she knows what this cost. Every hotel stairwell. Every rehearsal room listened to through closed doors. Every melody memorized while scrubbing toilets for people who never learned her name. All of it converging here. In this moment. On this stage. Under lights that were never meant for her. The final note releases. Not with a crash. With a whisper. And the room goes dead silent. No applause, no movement. Just air thick with something no one expected. Truth. What do you do when the world finally sees what you've been hiding all along? No one breathes. The silence after the final note is heavier than sound. It fills the performance hall like water filling a sinking ship. Slow, inevitable, drowning everything. Elara stands at the microphone, chest rising and falling. Not from exhaustion, from release. 23 years of stolen melodies just became public record. The conductor lowers his baton slowly. His face shows something between shock and respect. The kind you give soldiers who survive impossible odds. Rowan hasn't moved. His jaws locked, eyes fixed on Elara like he's seeing her for the first time. Realizing too late that silence doesn't mean empty. That invisible doesn't mean powerless. Someone in the back row stands, an older woman, diamonds at her throat. She's not smiling, not celebrating, just standing, bearing witness. Then a man beside her rises, then another. The movement spreads like a wave breaking against rocks. One person, 5, 20, 50. The entire room stands. And then the applause comes. Not polite, not performative, thunderous. It crashes through the hall with the force of recognition, of people who spent their lives around excellence finally witnessing something they can't buy, can't replicate, can't control. Elara's mother collapses into a chair near the side exit, hands covering her face, shoulders shaking. Someone hands her tissues. Someone else brings water. Because everyone understands now. They've been standing in the same room as this woman for years, watching her clean, adjust flowers, disappear when not needed, never knowing what she was raising in silence. The applause continues. Rowan remains seated, alone now, surrounded by standing ovations he can't join, can't claim, can't spin into his narrative, because this moment doesn't belong to him. Elara steps back from the microphone, not bowing, not performing, just stepping back. Like she's done 1,000 times before, but the room won't let her disappear this time. Someone moves through the crowd, slow, deliberate, an elderly man in a dark suit. Most people don't recognize him, but the veterans do, and when he reaches the stage, everything changes again. Have you ever watched power shift in real time? Watched someone lose control they thought was permanent? The man is 70, maybe older, gray hair cut military short, posture that speaks of decades standing at attention, eyes that have evaluated things most people never see. He climbs the stage steps carefully, not frail, just measured. The applause fades as people realize something significant is happening. Rowan finally stands, confused, threatened. The man stops in front of Elara, studies her face, then speaks quietly enough that only the front rows hear. "Your voice has a profile." Elara doesn't respond. "Can't." He continues. "I spent 30 years evaluating vocal patterns for government stress testing, training people to perform under psychological pressure, in environments where failure meant lives lost." He turns slightly, addressing the room now. "What you just heard isn't natural talent. It's discipline. The kind developed through sustained practice under emotional constraint. The kind that shows up in recordings we used to analyze for classified work." Murmurs spread through the audience. The man looks at Rowan. Not aggressive, just factual. "You mock something you couldn't recognize. Control that doesn't announce itself. Strength that survives without permission." Rowan opens his mouth, closes it. The man turns back to Elara. "Who trained you?" "No one," she says. First words since the performance ended. Voice raw. "Then you trained yourself." He nods. "That's harder, rarer, more valuable." He reaches into his jacket, pulls out a card, places it in her hand. "There are people who fund what matters. Not what's comfortable, not what's safe, what matters." The room erupts again. Not applause this time. Conversation, urgent, overlapping, donors pulling out phones, making calls, because money follows attention, always has, and attention just shifted permanently. Rowan moves toward the exit. No one stops him, no one follows. He leaves through the side door meant for staff, alone, erased by the same invisibility he weaponized. When was the last time you saw justice happen without anyone raising their voice? Elara doesn't stay for the reception. Her mother guides her through the back hallways. Past kitchens where staff are already whispering, past storage rooms where her mother has folded linens for 2 decades. But phones are buzzing everywhere. Video clips spreading, comments flooding, the performance going viral in real time. By the time they reach the parking lot, 3 separate donors have already called the venue manager, asking how to contact the girl who sang Mozart. Elara sits in the passenger seat of her mother's 15-year-old sedan, hands still shaking. Her mother doesn't start the car immediately, just sits there, breathing. "I'm sorry," Elara whispers. Her mother laughs, sharp, wet. For what? For being brilliant? For proving them wrong? For risking your job? Baby, her mother turns, eyes red, fierce. I've risked everything keeping you fed, keeping you safe, keeping you from giving up. She grabs Elara's hand. Tonight you risked being seen. That's different. 3 days later, the calls start. Private conservatory in Vermont. Full scholarship. Housing included. No audition required. The elderly man's card leads to a foundation that funds unconventional excellence. They offer Elara a mentor, a stipend, access to instructors who trained opera singers for European stages. Her mother quits the hotel the following week. Not dramatically, just stops showing up, because she doesn't need to anymore. Rowan's name disappears from Art's fundraising events. His social media goes quiet. Friends stop tagging him in photos. Sources say he moved to his father's London office, that he never attends live performances anymore, that the video of Elara singing still haunts him in quiet moments. But no one asks him directly, because no one's interested in his story anymore. Some people get erased by silence. Others get freed by it. Elara chose freedom. What would you do with a second chance you never expected to get? Power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it waits, in stairwells, in margins, in the space between what people see and what they ignore. Elara Wynne learned music the way soldiers learn survival, by paying attention when others looked away, by memorizing what mattered, by understanding that discipline doesn't need permission. Rowan Halbrecht learned a different lesson, that money controls everything except the moment someone decides they're done being controlled. That humiliation only works on people who believe they deserve it. That silence, when broken at the right moment, becomes the loudest sound in the room. Years later, when asked about that night, Elara doesn't call it revenge. She calls it truth, because revenge requires anger. Truth just requires showing up. The performance hall still stands outside Boston, still hosts presidents and generals and Nobel recipients. But the story people tell most often now isn't about power. It's about the night a maid's daughter stood on a stage built for people who belong. And proved belonging was never the point. Excellence was. And excellence doesn't ask permission. It just waits for the microphone to turn on. Then it speaks.